Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 15 of the Giro d'Italia, brought to you by Bicycle, the largest global marketplace for pre-owned bikes with over 20,000 high-quality pre-owned and refurbished bikes available. Bicycle connects the seller and the buyer to make the process of buying and selling bikes safe, easy, and convenient. Sellers, remember to use the code ButterflyEffect24 for 0% seller fee. Now, let's get into today's stage, because at 222 kilometers, it's one of the longest stages of the Giro d'Italia, and we're talking about 140 miles in distance, and we got tons of climbs. The most thing I want you to pay attention to, the middle climb, Passo del Mortirolo, that climb's a monster, then that's going to drop down, and then it's basically 50K all the way up to the finish of today's stage 15. Now, I want you to pay attention to one interview at the start of the race. It's Simon Gesking. He's from Cofidis. He's wearing the KOM jersey. He doesn't have the KOM jersey. He's wearing it for Tadej Pogačar, and he's something like 45 points behind the Slovenian. But he says in his interview that today is not a day for experience, it's a day for watts per kilo. Well, Gesking, it's true, it's a day for watts per kilo if you're a GC guy. But if you're not a GC guy, and you are not a GC guy, it is a day for experience, and you need to be wise on a day like today, because the breakaway could go the whole distance. When you went to bed last night, when Tadej Pogačar went to bed last night, and when he went to bed in December of last year, he was thinking about today's race. But, and this is a big but, he can't just ride his team for 222 kilometers throughout the whole stage. So even in December, when they marked this stage out, they thought, okay, we're going to let the break go if it gets a ton of time, but if it doesn't get a ton of time, if it's not working well together, and if we still have our sprinters and our lesser quality climbers on our team still there once we start getting over the first two climbs, we're going to ride the valley. That valley between the third climb, once we start the famous climb, that valley is what's going to decide how UAE team members would ride this stage. Every day of the year, when you look at a course like this and you want to win this stage, that valley is what decides whether or not, if you're a GC guy and you're wearing the pink race leader's jersey, if you can win this stage. Now, you could say, Chris, they could always decide. UAE team members could ride their whole team on the front, chasing some breakaway all day long through that valley that's working well together, drilling it, gaining time on Milano, Rui Oliveira, and Vegard Stackelegen for sure, but they would blow up sooner. Then you would be left with less quality riders once you start the famous climb there, the Category 1 climb. And if you had to ride your climbers right there full gas, it's over. Or Tadej Pogačar has to pull out at 81-kilometer solo ride again and just blitz everything, but he's trying to win the double. He's trying to win here at the Giro and the Tour de France. So the Valley decides everything for UAE team members if they're going to try to win today's stage with Tadej Pogačar. Okay, the cameras come on. I'm going to be a little vague with the riders in the break because everybody's going to be in the break. But when the cameras first come on, they hit kilometer 0, we're going to see about 10 guys go up the road. Caleb Ewan, the sprinters in this group, and he's got some other fast guys in this group too with no real climbers. Lillian Calmy Jane is in there from Intermarché, then we'll get to him. Now, that group starts getting up to about 2-minute gap there. Then we start seeing Cofidis in the back riding full gas. Cofidis, why are you riding 5 guys on the front here for Simon Gesking, who's wearing the blue jersey? Now, if we go back to his interview, like I told you, he said watts per kilo, not experience. Right now, he's trying to do watts per kilo and not experience because they missed a move and they're pulling full gas. But you're like, Chris, this is what they should do. Okay, it's what they should do. Let's go up and look at the 10 riders in the front group because we're going to see Woods up there. Woods rides for Cofidis, and he's rotating through with the 10 guys up there as he's got his teammates in the back rotating on the front of the peloton too. Now let's go back up to this front group of 10, because when this whole breakaway gets established later, much later here on this stage 15, there's going to be one intelligent guy in the whole group of about 50 riders that are going to come together. But at this moment, it's Lillian Calmy Jane back there from Intermarché. He's having it out with Woods. I mean, he's going all at this kid right here from Cofidis. And what he's telling you is he's yelling, I'm saying, why is your team on the front chasing full gas right now when you're actually in the break? You're in the break for Cofidis. this. Simon Gaskin, when you look at his resume, guys, he doesn't have any real amount of wins back there. He's a breakaway specialist. Anytime when you hear someone's a breakaway specialist, they never have a ton of wins unless his name's Jens Voigt, okay? If you were ever teammates with Yenzi, you know for sure Yenzi has a bunch of breakaway wins, and he's got GC wins against the best in the world, because I was there when he won Tour of Germany. He was magnificent. But Yenzi is the guy who can win from breakaways. Simon Gaskin is just a guy who shows his big, bushy beard there on the front of the peloton with his teammates pulling on the front like a bunch of knuckleheads. We go back up to Lillian Call Me Jane. He's having it out with the Stana car now. What he's doing is yelling at the Stana director sportif who wants to radio. He wants him to radio back to the number 1 car, number 2 car back there, whichever way they rotated here on stage 15. And he wants them to yell at the director sportif from Cofidis, because that guy's a knucklehead too. Then we're going to see Lillian Call Me Jane yelling at his own car there, Intermarché. He's yelling at his director to say the same thing. Go back there and yell at Cofidis and ask him what those knuckleheads are doing. And Lillian Call Me Jane, you're the smartest guy here on stage 15, and you're going to be the only guy that gets a pass here on the butterfly effect, because once we hit the first climb, the gap is down a little bit shorter there to the peloton, but not much. It's still a minute and a half, 2 minutes. Then we start seeing groups form all over the place. We're going to have, coming up over this first Category 1 climb, we got basically 10 riders. Caleb Ewan may or may not have gotten dropped at this point in time. Who cares? He's a sprinter. He shouldn't have been up there anyways. But if he's going to be up there, at least do something for your teammates. But he's not going to do anything for his teammates. Those 10 guys will go over the top. They're getting chased. 40 guys back there, 30 guys back there. It's a huge number when they go over the first of the top of the KOMs here on stage 15. They drop down, they start the next climb, and they still haven't attached up to that front group. We're going to see some attacking. It's not gelling well. 3 guys are going to bridge up to the front group. For sure, Caleb Ewan's dropped out of the front group by now. And we're going to see that these guys are caught right before the summit of this second category climb here on stage 15. Once they come together, Gaskin's going to get himself maximum KOM points. You're like, Chris, see what he was doing? Sure, whatever. He got like 15 points or something like that for the first KOM here. But he's been on the front all day long. Now, this front group, about 50 riders. It's crazy in size. We go back down and we look at the peloton. What was happening when they went up the first category climb here? Well, UAE team members were on the front, and that's Milano. Milano's on the front, and Rui Oliveira is on the front. Vegard's there with those 3 riders. Bjorg's not touching the front yet, so they're only running their sprinters, their lead-out sprinter man, and Vegard Stockaleg, who's going to be amazing. Vegard, you were something beautiful here today on stage 15, and you are going to be well respected after this stage. Once they go over the second climb of the stage, they're about 5 minutes behind, 4.5, 5 minutes there behind the front group of 50 riders. Front group of 50 riders hits this valley. Now, I told you at the beginning of the stage here that this valley was incredibly crucial because they only got 5 minutes and it's a 50K climb to the finish of stage 15. If Tadej Pogačar wants to win today's stage and the gap's only at 5 minutes, when you hit 50 kilometers to go, you know UAE team members are going to light things up. And when you go back and look who's pulling on the front, Milano is still on the front right now with Rui Oliveira. You guys are in trouble because all you knuckleheads are just attacking each other left and right. We see 6 riders break away through this valley. We got 2 Bardiani riders up there. We have 2 Astana riders up there. We got Bayer from Albacete de Koenig up there. And Woods is up there from Cofidis. The knucklehead, he's not back there looking after Simon Gaskin, who just rode his whole team and blew him up, who just wasted a ton of energy. Now Woods is back up here in the front group, and you're like, Chris, he's sitting on. No, he's not sitting on, guys. He's a knucklehead. He's rotating through. 6 guys up there. They're all rotating through. And Tobias Bayer, you're a knucklehead too because you're rotating through with a bunch of climbers up here, or at least 2 climbers. Not a bunch. There's only 2, but 2 out of 6, that's 30% right there. So you're still rotating through with 2 too many as Bayer's rotating with this group of 6. They got a gap of about a minute on the group of 40, 45 guys behind back there. Finally, Cometa decide they got to get to the front. Guys, they have 5 guys in this front group, and they're all knuckleheads. They waited too long. They missed the move. They should have been on the front. No one should have been tacking. Even the Stana rider up there, Scaroni, he shouldn't have been in this break because they should have been trying to gain more time. Every team back there that had multiple numbers, and everybody had multiple numbers except for AG2R. That rider, he didn't have any multiple numbers up there. And Lillian, call me Jane, he didn't have multiple numbers either, and he's the only one with any intelligence. So You look at this group of 6 going through the valley, full gas. They got about a minute gap. Kometa's on the front. They got a little bit of help from Tudor. They were knuckleheads too because they had Storer in this front group that's just under 10 minutes down on general classification, which if this group had worked all well together, if everybody that had any kind of climbing legs whatsoever was a breakaway specialist, you'd put your team on the front. Instead, they're chasing each other, not working well together. Kometa's on the front. Tudor's got one guy helping back there. And Tobias Foss from Ineos, why aren't you on the front? Did you ride too hard at yesterday's individual time trial? You don't have the legs now because you got Narvaez in this group with you, but you're not touching the front. You're sitting like 4th, 5th, 6th wheel back there, but never getting on the front. If you could ride 100% in yesterday's individual time trial so that you can get a top 10 result, why can't you ride on the front for Narvaez back here, who's your teammate in this group, that if you guys could get something like 8 or 10 minutes on the peloton back there, led by a couple sprinters, Milano and Rui Oliveira back there. If you guys got 10 minutes, this race would be blown up. Any chance for UAE team members to win the stage would mean they'd have to put their whole team right on the front full gas. They'd start to blow up. And guess what, Foss, if you rode 100%, you're helping Narvaez and you're helping G. Thomas, because the whole reason you want to be in a break is, one, either you get on TV, it's not going to go anywhere, but you'll get some sponsorship time on TV. 2, the main reason that you can win the stage. Or 3, you could put pressure on the race leaders, GC team, UAE team Emirates. So every team, even when you look at Bora Hansgrohe up here, they're not riding the front. They're back there doing tactical games, following attacks and stuff, but never riding the front, helping out with Kometa and keeping everything all together full gas. So UAE team Emirates got to ride full gas in the back. Instead, Kometa riding on the front with their whole team blowing everybody up. We're going to come into the famous climb, Passo del Mortirolo, with 79 kilometers to go. But before we start this famous climb, a word from our sponsor here, Bicycle, and I'll see you guys in 15 seconds. Now remember to check out Bicycle in the description. Let's get into the Mortirolo as it's starting proper. We see Milano. He's coming off the back. He's no longer at the front. That means they got Rui Oliveira and Vegard Stokkeleggen up there. But Bjorg is going to have to start riding soon too. Once Bjorg gets up there and starts riding, he's going to pull for about 10 kilometers. Then Bjorg's going to blow up. And guys, he really only pulled for a few kilometers up this climb here before he blew. Now it's time for Vegard on the front and suffering. And he's been on the front throughout this whole day. He was riding back there with Rui Oliveira, and he was riding with Milano, or at least in and around the vicinity the whole time. And now Vegard's on the front going 100%. Now, who's the knucklehead here? Mikkel Bjorg's the knucklehead because he got a top 10 in yesterday's individual time trial and doesn't have any legs left to really go deep. So that means Vegard Stokkeleggen now, he has to be up here riding 100%. And he's got to do a big pull up this climb. He's already been on the front, but he's got to do a big pull because Mikkel Bjorg wanted to go for a top 10 in yesterday's individual time trial. Okay, let's go up to the breakaway, guys, because they're holding still about 30 seconds, 40 seconds on the chasers back there being led into this climb by Kometa. With Kometa pulling full gas, they're losing guys all over the place. We go back up to the 6th breakaway, guys. Bear gets dropped. Alpecin de Koenig. Congratulations, Bear. You went up there and rode through that whole valley instead of being back there with Conchi back there pulling 100% with other guys gaining 10 minutes on a couple sprinters. Instead, you're getting dropped right now, and then we're going to see Alessandro Tornelli come off the back. Now, he did a ton of time pulling up here at the front with his teammate, but now he's getting dropped too. We're going to be left with 2 riders going over the top of this climb up front, and then when we back further down, Kometa's doing a solid job there of pulling, but that, like I said, they all blow up, and then the group's not really gelling well together at all. We go further back there, we look at the GC guys. Vegard was pulling 100%, but then he started to blow. Domen Novak had to get on the front. This is a bad sign. You do not want Domen Novak on the front at this moment unless he can pull out something super, because you let Bjorg do the individual time trial yesterday, so Domen's got to be amazing as they're going up over the top of this KOM. When they get into the valley, now we see everything start to come back together with the front brake, but there's only about 16 guys up here. When we go back and look at the peloton, when they hit the bottom of the climb, well, UAE team members, Domen Novak backed off the throttle a little bit, and Vegard comes back to the front. Guys, Vegard is something amazing here on today's stage 15, and now he's pulling on the front, going full with everything he can to do damage control. So you know when you're sitting on the Chesterfield, Tadej Pogačar, UAE team members want to win today's stage for certain, and they got the gap at about 3 minutes and 45, but Vegard's pulling the gap all the way down to about 3 minutes and 15. Then he blows. It's time for Grossschartner to get on the front. Grossschartner's on the front with about 22 kilometers to go. Let's go up and take a look at the breakaway now that I said was about 16-20 riders. This is the time for Steinhauser here, EF Education, to throw in his attack. Once he gets a gap on the breakaway, guys back there weren't working well together. He's in big time trouble because the gap is under 4 minutes. We're talking about 3.5, 3:45. So Steinhauser is going to have to go fast for 22 kilometers if he wants to try to win today's stage 15. We see Nairo Quintana. He had some company there with Storer as they dropped the rest of the guys, but then Nairo Quintana's going solo across up there to Steinhauser. As he's going solo, let's back it up just a little bit, because once we look at the peloton back there, Grossschartner blows at about 17 kilometers. That means Felix Grossschartner pulled for about 3-4 kilometers only. He blows. Now it's the last and final rider here for Tadej Pogačar, but his name is Rafał Majka, and I told you guys way before the Giro started, this is the ace lieutenant here for Tadej Pogačar. What's his MO going to be right here at 17 kilometers to go? Well, he's got to ride the front, and he's got to ride fast enough that if Tadej Pogačar thinks he can close this gap, Tadej Pogačar is going to have to close the gap once he attacks solo going up over this climb here. Otherwise, you know it's going to be too hard of a task at 3 minutes and 15 seconds for Rafał Majka to be able to close the gap closer and then launch Tadej Pogačar further on the last and final climb here. Well, we look up front, Nairo Quintana is catching Steinhauser, then he's putting in his own acceleration as we're about 3 kilometers to go from the top of this summit. Let's back down, let's see what's happening. Tadej Pogačar is hopping on the radio. We see the man right in front of him, Rafał Majka. He nods his head down, nods it up, nods it back down again. That means, yes, I heard you, Tadej Pogačar. I'm going to start lighting it up. He throws down on the pedals from the right side. Now he's going over to the left side next to the brick wall there on the mountainside. Full gas, everything he can. The GC favorites are all strung out. There's only about 22, 25 guys left. But look there at our Inchman. The facial expression from our Inchman means he's at the limit. Rafał Majka knows he's doing the job. He pulls one last hard big effort, pulls off hard to the right, looks down the row. Everybody there is blowing up. Tadej Pogačar throws in a huge acceleration, just under 14K to go. As he's going by Rafał Majka is looking over to the right. He's like, see ya, and the douche is Tadej Pogačar. But now can Tadej Pogačar catch the front riders up there? Steinhauser's just behind Nairo Quintana, but dropping time fast. Tadej Pogačar is flying on the pedals. We look a little further back. That's Danny Martinez, who jumped after Garrett Thomas, our Innsman's teammate, couldn't pull back the Slovenian. So Danny Martinez jumped across. Our Innsman blew. G. Thomas is on the front throwing everything into it. Then G. Thomas is like, oh no, I can't do it. I can't pull it back. He pulls off hard after he looks back. And who gets on the front? Oh, AG2R's on the front. Valentin Parapentre with Ben O'Connor. You boys are knuckleheads. There's no way you want to get on the front. You have Tadej Pogačar solo up the road. You have Danny Martinez in between you and Tadej Pogačar, and you have G. Thomas and our Innsman sitting on you right now as Ben O'Connor, as his teammate Valentin Parapentre, pulling on the front like a knucklehead. Everybody's a knucklehead here, guys, except for UAE Team Emirates and Lillian Call Me Jane from Intermarché, who was brilliant at the start of today's race. Now, as we see Tadej Pogačar catch Steinhauser, he's already got a minute on everyone behind. He's going to go straight through Steinhauser with about 100 meters to go to the summit. We go up over the top of the summit here with 10 kilometers to go. Nairo Quintana, he's got a couple options because he's going over first. I'm texting my home skillets right here, D-double-E and Meeker, that Nairo Quintana has a couple options right here. He's got to sit up is the most important thing. I'm telling him, sit up right here at the top of the KOM. You guys are like, Chris, sit up. Sit up? No way. Bomb the descent, climb the last 4 kilometers, and go into the finish and try to win the stage. No way. I text my home skillets and I said, you got to sit up. You rest, you come down the descent, and you're either on Tadej Pogačar's wheel getting a rest, and you're eating back there, or you're resting down the descent and you're eating, you're drinking, you're putting in as many calories as you can, because the Slovenian's coming fast behind Nairo Quintana over the top of this KOM. Back to film up just a little bit more before the top of that penultimate KOM. We see Bardet throwing in attack. No one can do anything about it as the Frenchman from DSM's throwing in his acceleration. We look back there. Guess who's getting on the front? Nope, it's not our Ensman helping out G. Thomas back there from Team Ineos. It's going to be Bahrain Victorious getting on the front. They've already ridden 2 stages for Tadej Pogačar. Now they're going to run a 3rd stage right here for Garrett Thomas, because they're big-time knuckleheads. Now as they're chasing Bardet, Bardet's going to go over as the 3rd GC favorite over the top of this penultimate KOM. Now they're dropping down the descent. They're hitting the last 4 kilometers where the climb is super steep, 20% switchbacks at the top, nasty, slippery roads, everything. Nairo Quintana's going full gas. He didn't take my words. And then back off and wait for Tadej Pogačar and sit on his wheel the whole way down the descent. So you know he's got not much left in his legs. But I will give Nairo Quintana this. He rode through the breakaway like a big-time knucklehead, because he never put his team on the front, Paleo Sanchez, either. So now Nairo Quintana's time is just about a race, as Tadej Pogačar has him in his sights with about 2 kilometers to go. 1.9, Tadej Pogačar has caught Nairo Quintana. They're coming into the switchbacks there with a hard left. Nairo Quintana's so blinded by the effort, he misses the left turn and almost crashes into the right fencing there. That gives the gap to Tadej Pogačar, who already had a bit of a gap to begin with. Now the Slovenians flying up the last 1.5 kilometers of the race. What's happening in the back there was the GC favorite started to hit. We see Bahrain Victorious is still on the front. Then we had an acceleration from Einar Rubio Movistar. As Movistar is accelerating, look at there at Arensman trying to follow it. Well, we see Garrett Thomas is backing off because Tibieri's going to get on the front. Harry going full gas for Bahrain Victorious. That means he's in the win, and Garrett Thomas isn't in the win. As we look up front, Bardet's still up there. We got Rubio chasing Bardet. We got Arensman chasing Rubio, and we got Tibieri chasing with Garrett Thomas sitting on him, with Ben O'Connor sitting on him, with Danny Martinez sitting on him. Now we go further up as it starts to plateau just for the last 50 meters of today's stage 15. The Slovenian Tadej Pogačar looks back over his shoulder. He knows he's got today's stage 1 because he's got a 3-minute gap. So he knew a long time ago he's going to sit up, celebrate, one finger up in the air and then both arms up in the air as the Slovenian takes a remarkable stage 15 victory for the ages here. This was a fantastic ride, and if I take you back to the 2021 Tour de France on stage 7, that's where they finished in Le Bonnard there, and Tadej Pogačar decimated the field there, and it was none other than Jonas Vingegaard and Richard Carapaz that he soloed over the penultimate climb for, all the way up the Col de Colombier, and put about 3 minutes into Jonas Vingegaard. Well, this was the same kind of stage right here, no matter what Adam Blythe tells you after the race. But when we go back and look at second, well, we see second back there. Nairo Quintana gets second. We see Attila Valters third. Then the GC guys start rolling through. Once we go further down the hill, I want to show you the attacks before we get into the GC guys finishing. Because it was Garrett Thomas throwing in a huge acceleration. This put the hurt to Ben O'Connor and Jan Hertz. But most important, if I back the film up just a little bit more, Tibieri from Bahrain Victorious got dropped. Rode his team on the front, 2 stages for UAE team members. Rode on the front today for Garrett Thomas, Team Ineos. Now he's not in the picture. They didn't even show when he got dropped. But now we start seeing Jan Hertz, Ben O'Connor suffering. Once Jan Hertz starts suffering, Ben O'Connor has to fight his way back up there to get onto our Rensman. G. Thomas and Danny Martinez will, but he locks back on. Then G starts his acceleration. Danny Martinez throws in another acceleration. This is going to bring back Rubiera. Once they come by Rubio, they know they got the next sights there, and that's going to be Bardet, but they can't catch Bardet because he's the next of the GC finishers, third out of the GC guys on today's stage. Then we're going to see Danny Martinez come through. Garrett Thomas comes through. Ben O'Connor comes through. Just behind him is going to be our Ensman, who did some fine work here in today's stage 15. Behind him, Jan Hertz comes in. And then Tibieri, he comes through 14th on the stage, 4 minutes back from Tadej Pogačar. Lost about a minute on all the GC guys in front of him. He'll still hold his 5th on the stage, but our Ensman's hot on his heels now after he blew on today's final climb here of stage 15. Remarkable day for knuckleheads all over the place. 50 guys in the break. And honestly, guys, there's only one Lillian Call Me Jane that I'm going to tip the hat to here on the Butterfly Effect, because everybody that had riders in this front group did not work the right way, tactically rode miserable. UAE team Emirates Machine, he said in the interview that his team rode perfect. Well, they rode perfect under the circumstances for sure, but Mikkel Bjerg left you guys stranded and made Vegard Stakalega have to do a monster pull here on stage 15, which he did. Domin Novak, you did a fine job. Großschartner, after crashing earlier a couple stages back, pulling 3-4 kilometers at crucial moments, and then to watch Rafael Majka do that acceleration to launch the Slovenian Tadej Pogačar for a magnificent win. It was a spectacular day of viewing. You guys got to watch 222 kilometers, and I hope if you watch the butterfly effect, once you start looking at all the tactics in today's race, you understand what I'm talking about. There was knuckleheads all over the place, but none of them were called Tadej Pogačar because he just gained 3 minutes on everyone and won the Giro d'Italia here, barring any accidents or sickness before the last and final week here of the Giro starts proper. Enjoy the rest day. I'll see you guys on the next butterfly effect on Tuesday's stage 16 of the Giro d'Italia.